Salutations, friends. It's me, Will. This week on the Tap In Podcast, our guest is Nick Sumbles. He's an extremely relevant individual who has put in an immense amount of work into the festival community, including his self-curated festival, the Flux Family Festival series. Him and a team of wonderful people throw about 3 festivals a year up in Arkansas, all while he stays in Austin, Texas, and helps people here figure out their dreams. I'd like to take a moment to thank everybody for tuning in and briefly apologize for the poor sound quality of this podcast. I'm still trying to work it out. I admittedly traveled to a friend's house to record it, and it's always a fun balancing dance that we do when we try to get the EQ and the levels right. And I assure you that it gets better and it doesn't stay as bad, but I tried my hardest, and I hope that you can muster up just all the podcast patience you have. If we can get beyond the poor 1950s radio quality voices that are in this podcast, I know that we can really dig into the content of this conversation, which spans all the way from the deepest depths of the shittiest situations to the highest integers of possibility for us to express ourselves in the festival community. Thank you so much, Nick Sumbles, for coming aboard, and I hope that we can all learn from listening to this podcast. See y'all on the other side.
Yes, greetings, good evening, and welcome to yesterday's news, where we're always one step behind the competition. Tonight we have a man who has turned himself into a full plate of lasagna. Now, can you please tell us why you've done this?
Noodles and sauce.
Noodles and sauce, there you have it. It appears that children in today's industry are brainwashed into thinking that pasta is truly just noodles and sauce. But I would like to disagree. Back when I was 13 years old, I lived in Italy for a number of years, working on a local wine farm. It was around that time that I realized lasagna was a complex arithmetic of not just noodles and sauce, but layers of emotion, love, and noodles.
And that's how the noodle nudes.
Yes, that's right, and that's why when I say I like nudes or to send nudes, I'm not just being inappropriate, no, but I actually do want your body to be covered in noodles. That's the best news that I've heard all day.
Yeah, I still haven't watched it. They're like pinning you down with compliments. They're like, no.
What was that about pinning me down?
Well, sometimes people can just compliment you to the point where you feel debilitated. Like, you can't move outside of the way of that compliment. And so...
So you're saying that you can actually freeze people in place just by complimenting them?
Wow, when you put it like that, it sounds like a kind of sorcery, huh?
It's pretty creepy, actually.
Maybe that's why Jimi Hendrix was, like, opposed to compliments. Because you could, like, disfigure
He understood.
somebody. Yeah, I guess he understood a lot of stuff in his, like, non-sobriety.
I mean, yeah, and I figure, if you're sober, then you just don't understand the world. I mean, that's been very clear to me because I'm sober all the time and I don't understand anything. But Jimi Hendrix, I mean, he was on another level, and I think that just introduced me to a philosophical conundrum that I, prior to this second, did not understand.
Honestly, dude, if you want to understand the world even half as much as Jimi Hendrix, you got to do as many drugs as you can right now.
So that's what he meant when he said learn your ABCs.
Your times charts.
You gotta know the L. You gotta know the K.
You gotta weigh out your doses.
Hey, what's a Wook's favorite animal?
I don't know, what?
The elk, because it has the E, the L, and the K.
Oh, damn.
Ha ha ha.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Tap In Podcast. My guest today is Nick Sumbles. Hey Nick, what's up?
Oh, not much. Just a really boring ceiling here in my bland apartment with no real design or fashion taste at all.
I like your apartment though. Sometimes I need to just get away from everything and just sit in a clear white room that's been totally disinfected and, put on the weird booties and just, sit here with you in this ultra clean space.
Well, I don't have any. If you mean if by booties you mean booty shorts, I apologize that I am not wearing them right now. I'm just wearing holy jeans because I think that that's what culture appreciates. It like makes people think I'm a rebel, but I'm not, you know.
That's what you get for being sober. I mean, if you did drugs, you'd have way more holes in your jeans. That's for sure.
I need holes in my brain.
Holes in my brain.
I don't have any holes in my brain, so I make up for it by having holes in my jeans.
Touche. All right. Well, I guess that's a good thing to talk about, though, is like the difference in our minds. One reason I really appreciate you, Nick, is because you do openly live a lifestyle that isn't like how do I put this, but like soaked in drugs. but that's not a problem. In fact, I know that one way or the other, honestly, like I know people who do a lot of drugs and they're pretty like, you know, good people, but you're one of the special ones. You're one of the special people who doesn't do drugs, who's still really awesome.
Well, I really don't think that there's anything wrong with, you know, indulging in substances. Plenty of people have different lifestyles and they're able to handle different levels of experience than others.
You're absolutely right about that. And I think that the interesting thing about this is that how I've been so like inundated in the festival community that when I meet somebody who genuinely enjoys that scene, who doesn't do a lot of psychedelics or, you know, smoke weed or anything like that, it's like an interesting finding because most of the people who cycle around festivals are trying to do a lot of drugs for one reason or another. That's not a secret.
Right, no, it really isn't, because I think that there's an overwhelming stereotype in the festival industry that everyone going to festivals is just going to a festival so that they can basically be in a drug paradise where they're able to do whatever they want to do without fear of getting caught, or which makes sense, but that's not really the purpose of a festival. That's just an element of the mixture of it all, because at festivals there's so much more than that. And even in the culture, there's so much more than drugs. It really is a simple part of it all. Because primarily, I mean, when I first started going to festivals, it was because I wanted to connect to the music. And I was interested in just why people were coming out in the middle of the woods to stay there for 72 hours or a week at a time. Or
it's confusing.
You know, it's very strange, you know. And when I first heard of festivals when I was 13 years old, and that was around the time when I discovered electronic music. Oh. And electronic music, the reason why it kind of differentiates from other types of music is because it's so much more, there's so many more possibilities. Like, because with electronic music you have infinitely more instruments than you do with a band. Because with the band, sure, there's a lot that you can do, and I love bands. I grew up listening to Pink Floyd, but then you have a synthesizer and it can make any sound that you dream of. So people started orienting shows, like entire shows based around the synthesizer, so to speak, or electronic music. You know, I mean, you go out to a club in Austin and there's a drum and bass club, there's a synthwave club, there's a club with dubstep. And then I like Empire because they have a little bit of everything. But everyone who has used a synthesizer, they're able to create sounds from that they define, and then an entire culture orients around that definition. That's what genre is. It's just an interpretation of the sounds that they are creating with this magical device.
And I really appreciate that, because the unique syntheses that they put into one another, like... Well, that sounds weird. Like, when you modulate, you're putting channels through other channels, and it's oftentimes as unique as the mind that's expressing it.
Yeah.
Let me put it that way.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of things in life where we express ourselves, and the synthesizer, much like a paintbrush, is just it's translating the mind.
Yeah.
And everyone has a different thing that they do in life to help express themselves, but all in all, I think it's incredibly important to do that, because if you're not creating everyone's a creative, because if you're not creating, then you're not really being yourself.
Mm.
Because really, truly, if you're not expressing yourself, then who are you?
I guess you're expressing your environment, right? It goes into this belief that you're constantly affecting your environment, but if you are left unaware, then the environment will affect you whether you realize it or not. And this is a good example of this is how if you have a family that's from London, that they met each other in London, they lived in London their whole lives, they both have English accents, but they moved to America and raised their child in America, the child will have an American accent because the people that it interacts with are American mostly. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's actually, I totally forget his name, and I totally forget the time, of course, so it might as well not exist at all. But just trust me on this.
Okay.
There was a psychologist,
Okay.
and I learned about this guy in high school that basically said that self-identity is only, it's only the environment, because you are influenced so tremendously by the world around you.
Mm.
That it actually develops the world that's inside of you.
Totally. The situation that we have when we're born into life is, we were talking about it before we got on the microphone today, how it's pretty chaotic and tumultuous at times, and like the reality is that life's experience is one crazy day after another, right? And And it's honestly, in my opinion, like this extended waking dream that could be expressed through music and stuff. But I feel as though that until you tap into the idea of the life experience as being like, like you're here to live kind of thing. And I can't speak for anybody outside of myself, but it seems like the simple answer to like what a festival is about and what we're talking about might be to just kind of be there to take in the experience and then take that experience home to affect our environment that we've agreed is somewhat chaotic.
Right. And I really think that the environment, which let's say the environment is a synonym for a buzzword here, consciousness.
Okay.
What I define consciousness as is just simply experience. It's a perspective on the experience that you have. And there is a spider web of possibilities and opportunities of essentially what you're paying attention to. Everyone's going to be paying attention to something different. And so that's why I believe that, yes, the environment is self-identity, because the environment around you is everything. There's so many influences there's so many things that are influencing you on a daily basis. We don't really think about it because it's subliminal, and it's really just affecting our subconscious minds.
Like the news.
Yeah, the news. What do you think that propaganda is, right? Just as an example. But I'm not going to get into any conspiracy theories or say that we're in Germany right now during World War II or anything. But I think that at festivals, to bring it back to that, the reason why they're so powerful isn't because of that drug culture. That's not truly why most people go there, from what I have discovered. Mm-hmm. Why most people go there is because they want to express themselves, and they want to find out more about the world around them and inside of them. Mm-hmm. Because at festivals, everyone has such an open mind that it's a place where everyone is safe and comfortable, and all of these walls of cultural ideology and like in the news, propaganda, government boundaries, all that fear is taken away. And really, truly, fear is the mind killer, because when you get rid of that terrifying, lingering, just thing, then anything is possible. And at festivals, people discover more than they would anywhere else.
Interesting. It's like allowing your creative self to be magnetically, to be like magnetized, like to have your creative intentions be literally magnetized in that people will gather around you and celebrate your creativity. And so, I mean, so we're talking from our experience, but our experience is special because we both spent like way too many hours at festivals. Or
Too many.
Too many.
I basically feel I'm always at a festival at this point.
Yeah, right. Like
we're at a festival right now, actually.
Dude, yeah, Austin, Texas sometimes feels like that. like something weird happened, and now it's like a never-ending festival. Man, that's what Las Vegas must really feel like.
Yeah,
It's never over.
But that's the thing, though. We really are always at a festival in some kind of way.
I really like that perspective, man.
Because you really shouldn't go to a festival and think that that's the only place where you can experience these open-minded discoveries. There's plenty of places where you can take what you learn from festivals and apply it to the real world. It took me, for a while, I was thinking to myself that I was only going to festivals so that I could essentially get into that state of mind where I was able to learn and grow, and it was so positive for me. But then I realized that I didn't need the catalyst of a festival to do that for me. I could do that anywhere. And these, really, all in all, a festival, it all boils down to, it's just cultural, it's people coming together. And people have come together for parties or, gather around the bonfire. It's for eons, since humanity was born.
Yeah, that might have, honestly, like, gathering in a community around fire, that's like ancient tribal stuff. Fire is a survival tactic as well as like an attraction. And I think that one of the reasons I really wanted you on the podcast was because of your role in the festival community. You helped organize both Flux festivals, Phantom Flux, Solar Flux. What are the other two?
There's so we have 4 a year.
Okay.
We start with Cosmic Flux. And we used to have something called a Gaia Flux, but it's kind of in a period where everyone's busy doing other things, so we stopped doing that. And then we next have Solar Flux, Quantum Flux, and then Phantom Flux. And at this point, I've done about 36 festivals, I think.
Oh my gosh.
35 of them have been Flux festivals.
Goodness, dude. That's like your yoga, man.
It is. No, it's very meditational. And at the same time, it can certainly be stressful, but everyone has something they enjoy. And sometimes we are at our best when we're under pressure. It's good to certainly relax and just not worry about things. But I think that the human body is capable of just about anything. And when we pressure ourselves and really try to accomplish something, then it's pretty amazing what can be done. But it's also about collaboration, because it's not just me doing these festivals. It's hundreds of people. I mean, you were a workshop coordinator for the last festival we did, co-creation, right?
Yeah, that was so rewarding, man. And to be honest, I know that I would sacrifice my time for that kind of thing again. Like, I really would, because the benefits of bringing people together, especially the workshops, they have a special flavor to them that is very communal, and it's very it's a very relevant thing today, because there's so much separation between not just not just our family lives, and I'm speaking generally, of course, but everybody on the planet could unify in a way. It's like, we did just confirm Art Outside is not happening.
Right, Art Outside is now canceled, which is really unfortunate, because I know they had weather problems a while back.
Yeah, dude. Ooh.
But that's the other thing, though. So life is chaos.
Yeah.
And festivals are chaos.
It's so similar.
And when you throw a festival, nothing is guaranteed. There's not much that you can do to secure yourself for success.
Oh, dude, festivals are hard. Guys, it's not easy.
Anything can happen. But that's the thing. I tell anyone, if they want to make money, don't throw a festival. It's not about the money at all.
You know what? I said that on an episode in the past, and I almost redacted it because I wasn't 100% sure. But
oh, it's true. It's very true.
I can't imagine.
You can make money with just about anything. I could go door to door selling pocket knives and probably make money off of that. But
damn.
But I mean, it's like it's a very high risk investment. Any festival is. And one big thing that makes it high risk is that you gather around a room of very talented, bright minds that you trust, and y'all look at each other and say, hey, let's throw a party. And y'all think that it's got to be the best, most badass thing that you've ever done in your life. And it most likely will be. But at the same time, you're probably going to lose a lot of money. And so anyone that's throwing any show at all, and
whether it be a festival or in the city,
or just a fucking house party, like you gotta go in with a low budget. If your budget's $40,000, make it $10,000 less. As in, if you think you can afford something, I always say make it $10K under that because that way you have a nice window, a nice cushion.
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up because lately I've been having this gut feeling that the future of events is going to be like 70 to 80 person events. Like I just really feel like Paul McCartney would rather be playing to a room of 100 people than like a crowd of like 500,000 people. But it's hard for me to say. I'm not there. I just think that if you're going to start throwing events like curating tinier shows that have maybe like 80 tickets available, with like maybe like if you have like a $20 ticket, offer someone else's art too as part of the door prize, right? But that kind of intimate connection is what's going to carry you through to the future. Like
intimacy is definitely important. Right?
Yeah. I mean that's like the whole. It's like the whole reason people like Flux festivals or like the concept of a create culture festival. You know that. I mean, it is a nightlife culture that lends itself towards not being judged because in the darkness, with the lights off, with everybody expressing themselves, you can be as weird as you want, And I think that it's important that people people that might be listening to this, people like you and I who feel like it's a good idea to organize people despite all of the there's so many reasons not to do it.
Oh, for sure, right.
But I'm not convincing myself out of it. I'm actually convincing myself that I'm up to the job. But, dude, It takes a lot out of you. And I for one, want to thank you for being involved. Because, I mean, you're definitely not doing nothing.
No, you aren't either, But that's the thing. Like, don't just sit in your butt and do nothing. You got to do something. But the other thing is you don't have to have gigantic aspirations or anything. Not everyone is going to want to throw a festival or even be a part of a festival. Because, I mean, it's definitely a weird, exotic place. Mm-hmm. And there's many different kinds of festivals that orient around many different cultures. Mm-hmm. Just like how there's many different genres that orient around many different sounds. Please. And the reason why I was talking about how a synthesizer can make, a billion infinite sounds is because so can a person can make a billion infinite festivals. And sounds. They're really called gatherings, and people have been making all these gatherings for eons. And it could be 70 people, it could be 3 people, it could be 20,000 people.
Yeah, let's make a weird reflection here and kind of siphon the conversation towards this another intimate gathering called Magic the Gathering, which we've cleverly integrated into the festivals.
So right. Well, so that's a workshop, right? So at these gatherings, everyone from different parts of the world are coming together to really just celebrate the aspect of expression. And I say that because you've got cooks at vendors making all sorts of, like, for example, the dank-ass grilled cheese place at Co-Creation, Tawanda Grilled Cheese. They made some of the best... Tawanda, yeah. They make amazing grilled cheese sandwiches, and they love coming to festivals because they like sharing their talent and their passion. And then you've got yourself where you're making these amazing dink-ass paintings, right?
Ouch.
Oh, yeah, what I suck, yeah. See,
I don't suck. They're just not as dank as they will be.
Here comes that crippling self-doubt, right? But, I mean, all of us are going to doubt ourselves, but these festivals offer a great medium, a great canvas for us to paint on, so to speak. And
yeah, it is a big canvas. It's not
gigantic,
just me painting,
right?
man.
Right. Everyone's painting in their own way. Everyone is a color on the painting of a festival. And I'm not trying to get too deep into the analogy of things, but you're shining like your true self at a festival, just like I am, if it's a good festival. And
that's a really good point, because whether you're the dude who's standing in front of the light painting, or whether you're the guy in the behind scenes organizing everything, or if you're the dude who's watching the front gate at 3 o'clock in the morning,
or someone dancing, or someone just attending and not doing anything and just sitting at their tent,
helping by staying out of the way.
or like everyone is a part of it. It's a very diverse place at most festivals that I go to, and even like the most basics of shows I go to, because I've been to a lot of different festivals. Like I've never been to Bonnaroo.
I love that festival.
But so tell me about your experience at Bonnaroo.
Okay, so basically, I drove up there. Honestly, it was a really crazy experience. Like, we did way too many drugs. Like, by the last day, I was so exhausted. I actually got in a fist fight on the way home, and I still have the bone from this dude who I got in a fight with. Like, my hand, if y'all can't see, but it pretty much looks like there's a tiny pebble right on top of my thumb in my hand. Don't punch your friends, guys. Don't punch your friends. Even if you're hungover on a week of drugs, just don't do it. But Paul McCartney played it, and that was awesome. Like, honestly, Paul McCartney's performance changed my life. It changed my life. It's the 8th largest city in Tennessee, when Bonnaroo City is totally combined. Like, a lot of neighborly compassion, a lot of good vibes, a lot of weird vibes. Here's this weird story.
Tons, right.
All right, dude, okay, so I'd just seen Paul McCartney, right? And I was rolling, right? So I was just...
Like down a hill? Like,
no, I was ecstatic.
Like in a washing machine?
No. I was in full ecstasy. And like... and I just remember being in like a crowd, right? And these people next to us were dancing, and I remember that they said that somehow or another they got some drugs, and I just looked over and I remember thinking that it was a gay couple and thinking like, oh, good for them, like just living it up. I know some people might not be that open with who they are in public and how great it is that people can be them, and then I look over and these two people are like, before too long, they're like fucking. Like, literally, like, they're naked, having gay sex. And I'm like, oh, dude.
Not just any sex.
Gay
Sex. The best kind of sex.
I mean, I've heard it argued that anal sex isn't even gay because everyone has a butthole. So, like, anal sex translates to any gender, but I don't know.
Where was culture, like, 100 years ago, well, it still is like this even, when they think that the butt is off limits. Like
who
decided that?
If you fucked a butt.
Yeah, like who decided that the butt was off limits? Because like and I don't want to hear because you go through the bathroom through your butt. Well, I mean, you go through the bathroom through your dick too. So
yeah, it's all backwards. It's all sewage plus.
Like like
Neil deGrasse Tyson puts it, like someone had a snafu in the design because they put the roller coaster next to the sewage system, and it doesn't make sense.
But it's also, I mean, the mouth is what you use to eat food, but people are okay fucking that. So. You know what?
People are just horny, dude. They're just too horny.
Who decided? I mean, I don't. You cannot tell me.
You know what? What can't I tell you?
You cannot tell me that they're like. If I went to some nice Christian couple in the 50s, that your general like stereotypical cul-de-sac, where you become a neighbor there, and they bring you a pie, and the wife is wearing this nice green dress, and the husband goes and plays golf every day at 3 o'clock or,
You don't
or whatever.
watch Weeds?
You cannot tell me that those people were not doing anal at some point. The very strong Christian values, those people they probably tried it at least once.
I've met people who said they're saving anal for marriage. They're like, you gotta save some,
Yes.
So okay, well let me just say, I don't think there is anything wrong with pleasing yourself sexually within the consent of the people you love. But out in public, orgy in public was a little disturbing to me at the time.
Consent is important.
Since then, shouldn't there just be a designated place for that?
It all boils down to consent. The Burning Man literally has sex dungeons.
Have you ever seen Hellraiser?
Oh yeah, dude.
So the scene where she walks into the room and the Cenobites come out, and
yes,
then one of the Cenobites walks up to her and puts his fingers in her mouth. Yeah. I always imagine that's what walking up to the wrong tent, the wrong camp that Burning Man was like. You just walk in and there's Cenobites at the camp,
or the Cenobites or whatever they're called.
Cenobite Burning Man camp.
It's oh man, this isn't an orgy. This is hell. It's Hellraiser.
What is your pleasure?
Oh my god. Hellraiser on the real. If anyone is going to watch any horror film this Halloween, watch Hellraiser 1 and 2. You will not be displeased.
And they may as well. Art Outside's canceled. They got to do something.
Yeah, or come to Phantom Flux since Art Outside is canceled.
Hey, bro.
Yeah, since
hey.
No, sorry, but
I'm kidding, dude. I'm kidding. I've actually got Utopia Fest the next week.
Oh, Utopia Fest is awesome.
Yeah, it's during my week. It's during the week of my birthday.
When's Utopia?
It's November 2nd through 4th, and STS9's the headliner.
I may actually end up going to that, but
it's really good, man. I recommend it. They don't have overlapping music, and the people if you're into beer, people literally just go around with wheelbarrows filled with ice and beer, just handing it out.
That sounds dangerous.
Yeah, clearly the only people with 21 and up wristbands. But
so you have to pay for the beer.
Yeah, you have to be at the festival.
I got really excited there for a second because
if you just airdrop in, they'll just give your drone a beer.
Nice,
dude. That's so funny. You can give underage drones beer.
I just want to say that we live in an age where you can have Amazon in certain cities airdrop you a box of donuts and a 6-pack of deer from the 7-Eleven gas station right down the road.
No. No.
Yeah, I know.
No. What is this? That's interesting.
Yeah, you can totally.
You know what, though? I think it's a fad.
You can order psychedelics on eBay.
Yeah, I knew that.
You can put on a VR helmet and play a game where you literally are just standing in a line, and every level is just a further increasingly bigger line with more impatience and more annoying things happening. The first level is just 5 people.
Like a line at the DMV?
Yeah, exactly. It's just the first level is literally just 5 people in a line. You go up and you buy a pack of cigarettes and you're done. Level 2 is 10 people, same thing. Level 3 is 15 people, but there's a crying baby behind you and you have to deal with the crying baby. Level 4 is 40 people, and then they close by the time you get to there, so you have to wait in the line again and go there in the morning. And it just keeps going. And it's
what?
We live in an age where people want to simulate that. Now, I don't know what that means. I just want to say it's more of a matter of fact, but, take it as you will.
Dude, I've been... So what's that rule about, how if you could think of a porn, there's already a hentai version of it?
Oh, if we're going to get on the subject of hentai, I need to talk to my lawyer first.
Yeah, we might need a pause for a second.
I may be running for president, here in 10 years. I don't want anyone knowing about my hentai preferences.
Oh, dude, haven't you heard? I got all the artists to collab on an 8-panel traditional, Chinese hentai painting for, that would normally be seen in, a Chinese food restaurant.
But it's hentai.
But it's hentai.
Well, yeah, I know. I commissioned it.
What?
That private buyer?
Barf?
Yeah, that private buyer.
The private buyer of Sir Brufflesmarf.
Yeah, Sir Brufflesmart. That was me. I just never told you.
Goodness gracious. That's another gathering too, though. You know, I watched this documentary recently.
Wait, hentai?
Hentai documentary, full feature film BBC hentai documentary. Like, it's so funny.
Monty Python discusses the socioeconomic policies behind hentai.
Dude, Monty Python's like hentai cartoons. Man, this is a ridiculous conversation.
Terry Gilliam was one of my favorite animators. If we're going to go on a tangent about Monty Python.
He had hilarious depictions of sexualizing, like,
for sure.
Like, not just women, like humans too, like horny men. It was so funny. Like, those cartoons are dark, dude. They're so eerie. Not unlike Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Dude, there's some great cartoons that I watched as a kid, and I look at them now, and they scare me now when they didn't as a kid because I was so innocent. But now that I recognize what the cartoons are depicting, I get like PTSD, and because I associate with what they're depicting in a very negative way.
Like what?
Like for example, Courage the Cowardly Dog really talks about possession a lot.
Dude,
you know?
It's so eerie. Like I remember feeling legitimately scared to my core about like why people would want to generate something that was so intensely scary. The idea of Courage the Cowardly Dog is like create something that's silly that's still very scary because there's like a whole dark child thing. Like Invader Zim was innately dark. You know, Ren and Stimpy kind of had some dark undertones as well. There was other animes that got really dark.
But I like that though because I think that it brings comedy. Oh my god, yeah. Or if we want to talk about anime, King of the Hill is definitely my favorite anime.
Oh, dude, yeah, King of the fucking Hill, dude. Gosh darn it, Bobby.
But
so funny.
I do love cartoons because they take those normally dark aspects of life and bring new light to them. But at the same time, there's deep introspection in some of the cartoons. Well, with other cartoons, it's just pure nonsensical hilarity. I mean, Courage the Cowardly Dog, definitely, it's not necessarily a light cartoon. In fact, arguably, it's one of the darkest cartoons on Cartoon Network at the time.
Yeah, dude, it has an old man just, like, clobbering a dog?
Yeah, right.
Every episode?
Yeah.
Like...
and it's just always, he loves Muriel, but it's like Muriel doesn't have any other friends, and what's his name? Eustace?
Oh, Eustace. Oh,
yeah.
It's sad, right? And his name's bad, right?
Yeah, and he's like a terrible husband.
Oh, he's just the biggest dick.
And she's always like trying to like make him breakfast and clean, and he's not doing anything but sitting there reading the newspaper and trying to scare this dog.
Oh, but sometimes, like to save the day, he would like fall in love and be like, "Oh, Muriel."
Yo, Muriel. Like I'm pretty sure that Courage was legitimately just the real husband, and Eustace was actually the dog.
Fascinating. Well, I wonder if that cartoon cartoons definitely have emphasized the projection we put into our animal friends, at personifying them.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I really think that cartoons take everyday aspects of our lives and makes fun of them, but at the same time makes them sacred. Like in Ed, Edd and Eddy, it's just these kids wandering around a cul-de-sac trying to get a quarter so they can get a gobstopper. Dude, and they fail every time. But the beauty of that show is that they're just kids having fun.
I was talking about how if Ed, Edd and Eddy was a live-action show, there's no way I'd watch that.
It would be terrifying. That'd be a horror movie. That would be like Hellraiser. Dude, what would be scarier? Going up to the attic in Hellraiser 1. Like, remember when the lady... Well, so for anyone who hasn't seen Hellraiser, let's get back to that for a second. In this film, it's basically about this lady who's having an affair with a demon that she's growing in the attic that is a legitimate spawn of hell.
It's not just the demon, it's actually her married husband's brother who she's cheating on.
Yep, who died.
Yeah, who's dead.
Who died and now is being respawned in the attic. Now when she goes up there and like when the husband first discovers this and like goes up there, it's just this like strange assortment of flesh that appears to be his brother, but is no longer his brother.
Oh, it's so nasty. It looks like this new Tool video coming out. Anyway.
But, so like, what would be scarier at Hellraiser? Going up there and seeing that, or going up there and seeing a real live-action version of Ed from Ed, Edd n Eddy?
Like, with just grilled cheese stuck to the fucking and butter in the couch.
Yeah. Or like a giant gobstopper, like, protruding from his mouth.
With his ear just, like, dangling off the side of his... Oh, dude.
Like, how scary would that be? It's like seeing this... Like, I'm pretty sure that if you go to hell, like, I haven't been there recently, but there's probably a room somewhere there where there is like cartoons in real life. Like Courage the Cowardly Dog in real life would be so bizarre.
I think they did try to 3D animate Ed, Edd n Eddy at one point.
There's all sorts of artistic renderings of real life versions of cartoons, and every single one of them are obnoxiously creepy.
I heard that Ed, Edd n Eddy was originally piloted for MTV.
Really?
That was supposed to be like a new Beavis and Butthead, effectively, but in that, like, a core part of their character was that they smoked weed. But then they said, like, no, we're not going to do that again, and passed it off to Cartoon Network. Yeah, well, Cartoon Network is Fox anyway, so, like, pretty, that's why they can air Family Guy on Adult Swim.
They haven't always been Fox, though, right?
No, I imagine they syndicated within our lifetimes, actually. But because it used to be, like, Warner Bros. Was real big with Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I'm stepping into territory I don't know too much on. But I think what you're trying to say about cartoons is that it does make it, in a sense, this word that we like to use for really important things called sacred, which pretty much just means in our language that it means a lot to us because it feels like it separates us from our own condition and projects to us just like a little bit of hope in the world. Like, for instance, today's been a weird day. All parties involved in today have been going through some really weird stuff, right? But let me tell you, man, like, I went to Freebirds down the street, and one of my old friends was there, and he gave me and my girlfriend's food for free.
Nice.
And, yeah, I know. He was like, I got you, man. And if that didn't just give me hope in the world, it's like those tiny little jolts of relaxation that allow possibilities to float into your head. And this is why all promotions aside, this is why the festival culture has done so much for me personally. It's because it's provided this. It's almost cliche at this point because I've been to so many festivals. It's like, oh, okay, live band at the festival again. But
right.
So many, but I say almost cliche because that's only when I take myself for granted and don't appreciate the opportunities I have.
Hey, it's Will here. I'm just taking a brief moment to discuss the newly founded sponsorship that the Tap In podcast has formed with the Gallery Lucid. Now, the Gallery Lucid claims to be the only visionary art gallery inside of the Austin, Travis County area. And they're definitely living up to the name. So far, many of my friends have shown art in this space, and I'm sure many more will show art in the future. But I'd like to take a moment to just tell you a little bit about the space. It's located on 7101 Easy Wind Drive, and that's in Suite 3101, right behind the Black Star Co-op at Airport and Lamar Boulevard. Eric and Samantha Kirkendall are the curators of this art, healing, and insight studio. And during the day, they operate it for various massages or light therapies. In the comments of this video, I'll put all the information you might need to find them on either Instagram, Facebook, or their own website, gallerylucid.com. There's a lot of upcoming shows featuring many new artists, some of which are my friends, others are people I hope to become my friends. And if you're one of those people, I hope to see you there in the near future. I'd like to thank Eric and Sam for sponsoring the podcast, because I know that our conversations all too often wind up being interesting, and that's why very soon we'll have them on the podcast as their own featured guests. But thank you so much for taking a brief break to think about the warm souls at the Gallery Lucid. All right, let's get back to the podcast.
That's the best news that I've heard all day. Join us on William's Tangent next week when we start talking about fully automated working cars powered by lasagna.
Will he ever connect to his point? Does he have a point? That will all be revealed next time on...
My favorite thing to do is to jump inside of a paper shredder.
My favorite thing is to combine shredded pieces of paper.
Have you ever thought about how nuclear bombs are very similar to aardvarks farting?
Festivals can create a wonderful sense of worth.
Well, speaking of tangents, if we want to actually relate our tangents to something meaningful, festivals are great because everyone can just talk about nothing and just be themselves and have fun. And there's nothing to worry about. I can go around to any camp at a festival. I've never been to a festival where I couldn't do this, and I could sit down around complete strangers and be like, "Hey, I'm Nick. What's your name?" And then, like, a few minutes later, I could talk about anything. I could talk about, just not anything, but like, I've had complete strangers come to my camp and open up their hearts out as if they were talking to their psychiatrist, and they've only known me for, like, 10 minutes.
Oh, dude, being a live painter, people don't understand how, like, you set yourself up for that sometimes, because, like, you'll be standing there, and then someone will be tripping, and they'll come up to you, and like, your painting will resonate with something for you, and then they'll just start crying and weeping, saying like, "Help me! I don't know what to do.
Right?
What do we do?" And you're just like, "Oh, damn!"
It's like, well, a lot of people it's like they're desperate for answers, and when you go to a festival, there's a lot of answers surrounding you, and it's overwhelming because you don't know how to define and translate what's going on. Especially people who are under the influence, because they'll go to like a painting which maybe have some vibrant color, or maybe there's an apple that reminds them of when they were like 13 years old and their mother made them apple pie or whatever, and they'll just like break down and weep and just like grab your hand and say, "Thank you so much for making this." And you may be standing there thinking like, what? But it's so, it's like, it's really just like, I haven't really even started the painting yet. But that's the thing. Everyone has different perspectives on what's going on at a festival. Mm-hmm. The main fact is that it's just this whirlwind of magnificent chaos, cultural expression, and people just being people without fear, being themselves, and just enjoying music, or maybe eating a dank taco, or painting a painting, or dancing on the dance floor, or
Magic recently,
or sleeping in their tent the entire time, like whatever, And it's not like everyone enjoys festivals,
especially us.
Some festivals suck. I've been to festivals where I'm like, this is the shittiest place I've ever been to in my life. I want to go home. I want to play my games.
Oh my God, I've totally been at that festival.
Like that festival. And sometimes, like, it's very easy to get jaded about festivals too, because there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of energy, and there's a lot of overwhelming content. But that's why, just like with anything, and this is very Buddhist, but just everything in moderation. It's all about balance. You can't go to a festival every week like a lot of people want to do. You can't do that. You're got to burn yourself off. You're got to burn yourself out.
Yeah, dude, it happens. Especially if you like organize stuff like
especially
community organization. I mean, this term cat shepherding or cat herding.
Cat herding, right?
Has been used many times appropriately. Like, it's fascinating how hard it is to really convince people to align intentions for just one weekend.
Absolutely. It's because when you throw a festival, everybody involved is going to have a different idea of what that festival should be like. And it's very difficult to get everyone on the same page. In fact, you can't really get everyone on the same page in terms of what the vision is. That's impossible. Until everyone suddenly realizes that the festival, what that page is, it's chaos. And you can organize it with plans of a system and an infrastructure Like, you need to make sure you have a generator for the power. You need to make sure you have enough food vendors so that people don't go hungry. You need to make sure that there are enough porta potties, because otherwise the entire experience has got to smell like shit, and people are got to open up a porta potty with poop piling up towards the heavens, and they're going to scream as if they walked into the attic in Hellraiser.
Like you go in the room and there's a porta potty with shit mountain coming out of it.
Like, let me tell you, you have not screamed until you walk into a porta potty and see just like a mountain of shit.
Oh my god! And that reminds me to always check the porta potty before you use it.
Right.
Unless it's like, I mean, at a certain point, unless you're tripping, I just would try to avoid one.
I would hate like to trip into a porta potty, and what I mean by that is like literally just like trip over my shoelace and then just like fall head first.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, that's nightmare fuel,
dude.
there.
Okay.
But
I've heard stories of people like, so in Vietnam there wasn't infrared plumbing, and I've heard stories of like soldiers who were in Vietnam like walking out of a bar the wrong direction at night and then just walking into like the shit pit.
Yeah.
Like it being up to his neck in shit and piss.
When I was in China, I actually experienced something like this. So I was in China for 3 weeks to get married. Long story. That's for another episode.
Okay.
But basically, I was in this rice farm, and if you've ever been to a rice farm, it's a beautiful area. They're all over the world, but mainly in Asia, where it's this mountain, and they've carved steps into the mountains. And basically, these steps are holes, and they are filled with water, and rice will grow out of that, or other crops and things like that. But anyway, it was still in development. They were actually like building things with hammer and nail. It was almost like an Amish village. They had horses. There weren't any vehicles. It was very interesting. But everyone, it was lunchtime, so all the workers were down by this sort of like this restaurant, this outdoor vendor where they were serving noodles. And so around that area, if you ever go to China or anywhere in Asia, all the food there is extremely spicy. You can get non-spicy food, but if you want spicy food, you're going to find it. You're going to find the 4th of July firework like you're eating an explosion spicy.
Oh, my God.
And I didn't really know how to coordinate with the person there to let them know that I didn't want anything spicy.
Oh, man.
And they just gave me a bowl of noodles, and so I didn't really pay attention, and I just took a big bite. And oh, my God. It was like... It was so terrible. It was so painful. And I immediately had this acid reflex reaction where I needed to go to the bathroom fast. And so I looked around me and I started jetting around like a chicken with his head cut off. And I found this concrete cube that was by the, like just a few minutes walking away from this place. And I darted into there. And as soon as I got in, this wave of just this smell that, like, it's almost like if you put your head into a butt. This is what it would smell like. And not just any butt. Like, I'm talking about a horse that has been dead for like 20 days.
A dead horse.
In the middle of a swamp. Like that. That is what it smelled like. And so I immediately wanted to throw up with the smell because I never had seen anything or experienced anything like this. But I looked around me and there was just these holes where you would like shit next to somebody. And you could like stare right at them if you wanted to.
Oh my God.
Because there were no walls surrounding the holes.
Polite. That wouldn't be very polite.
Yeah, there was nowhere. But there was someone taking a poop right there. And I just walk in, and I'm so not only am I greeted by this incredibly terrifying smell, but at the same time, there's just this naked Chinese dude just like taking a poop, and I'm like, all right,
oh my God,
I got to do this because I'm not gonna go back out there and poop. I'd rather be seen by one person than by like 10 people eating their noodles over there, right? So I just pull down my pants and start pooping. And,
oh no!
And it wasn't just any poop because it was diarrhea.
It was Chinese urea.
It was terrible. It was like, I forgot why I told you this story, but
it's because it was so shitty. It was so shitty, dude. Well, it was because I told you the story about the people who would walk and fall into like literally piles of shit. So I guess the reason this is brought up though is because like life is not always pretty, is it?
Right, and that's why you got to make sure you have proper porta potties at your festivals. Because if you don't, you're gonna give other people that experience of walking in to this like box of poop.
Yeah, guys, listen, folks. If you're at a festival and you're serving food, or you're organizing, people might take a copious amount of drugs that inhibits them from being able to communicate, and if that's the case, they could find themselves in a situation where they're being turned inside out by the noodles you've served them.
Exactly. So you got to make sure to offer consent, just like what you talked about before, where you just had these people having sex next to you. They should have asked, like, "Hey, is it okay if we do anal right here?"
Yeah, they should have cleared a space, like put a tarp down or something.
Yeah,
and then, had rangers been like, "All right, people,
or
this is happening."
Or that person should have asked me if I wanted spicy noodles.
Oh my god, dude. Okay, all shit stories aside, the festival culture is one that's still a work in progress, man. And I can say that I've decided to swim deep into festival productions that were, that I full on knew would need a lot of work, right? But that goes with the job, right? Like, deciding to be an artist is turning out to be far more work than I even imagined. So I want to say 3 years ago, when I decided to take this stuff seriously and start painting every day and making music every day, I knew that was a huge commitment, and that I had to surround myself with people who were about that lifestyle, because you want to stay in that flow state as long as you can. And luckily with the internet, you can stay connected to those people who are living that lifestyle. But it seems like I'm having to renew that commitment every single day, because this year for festivals was it was an interesting situation for me. Like, I've been through a few different situations. You've been at the last few. And
I have, yes. I've seen you at a lot of the festivals I've been to this year. Waterloo
Festival,
Co-Creation. You went to Flux.
I went to Flux last year. I went to Phantom Flux.
Right.
Actually.
You should go to Phantom Flux this year.
You know what? Kara and I were talking about it, but dude, it got too cold for me last time.
It's going to be about 68 degrees there.
Really? Last year was below freezing. I couldn't believe it.
It's 50 in the low and 64 around the high. Dang. And we also have so that's the other thing. Like, when you're throwing a festival in the cold, you have to make sure to have bonfires. We have a bunch of bonfires.
Yeah, totally.
And we have a costume contest to encourage people to dress up in warm clothes and wear costumes.
Who was playing? How many homies from Austin?
A lot of people from Austin. We actually have No Matter.
Nice.
Dirty Wolves.
Dang.
Path of the Moose. Mantoid. Triptogram. And I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. I can actually pull up the poster right now on my phone.
That's awesome, dude. I love those guys. They know what being a DJ is about.
Yeah, they do. Oh my god.
Like, when I create electronic music, I'm doing it to express myself, but it seems like when they get up there, it's like they're really just trying to get people to dance for their own good.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm projecting there, but
no, I mean, that's another part of expression as the musician on the stage. That's a huge thing, because everything the musician is doing is making people dance and move to the flow of the festival. The music is extremely important, just like the art is.
And that goes into that. We briefly touched on the concept of genre.
Right.
And how genre can... I mean, I've heard heated conversations about BPMs when it comes to festivals and timing the schedule, because you want there to be a clear ramping of beat rate. Like, you want the beats per minute to be dialed up slowly as the night goes, traditionally. And I can't say I disagree with that. I don't either. I can see why that's the trend, or why that's the situation. Maybe, and then maybe slowing things down in the morning. And I mean, that aspect of curation, I think, is a very important part of teaming up with people. I mean, in the events that I've designed in the past, it was clear to me that you'd have to work with people who you didn't have to worry about. And I've never invested. I wish I could say I've never invested time, but I've never invested my own money into people that I feel like I will have to worry about later. Like the competency. Is that the right word?
Yeah, I'll say so.
Word. The competency of being a DJ today is a surprising level of professionalism that some people might shake a finger at, but I really tip my hat off to it because, man, especially Levi, Dirty Wolves is just grinding. Like, it feel like he plays 3 shows a month here in town.
A ton, right? And him and Jackson both, and they have that new collab. Because Jackson and Levi, their collaboration project is called Path of the Moose.
I love Path of the Moose.
And then Will Zentorion, he's also playing at Flux.
Oh, there you go. Cool.
And then I'm playing at Flux, and it's like all of us are just kind of coming together.
Within that system of music making, though, y'all bounce around ideas to one another that really dials in the whole experience for one another. Like, becoming for lack of a better term, a DJ / music producer. I mean, the people we're speaking of now are mostly music. Like, they make the music they play,
right? Which
is a whole nother
spectrum.
Yeah, a whole nother spectrum that I'm like, I give so much respect to it because it's architecture. It's a real sound design.
It's auditory architecture, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you know what synesthesia is, but if you produce music and you spend enough time in the Ableton programs or the Logic programs like you or I spend time in, you will actually hear songs and you'll hear them in terms of the actions and the sequences and the modulations they did to reach that moment. And that's that real heady part of electronic music, the bass music scene that we're into, that I'm really into. Like there's 2 different schools on the West Coast. I'm pretty certain house is very big. I've been told this by a few people. And then, like, on the East Coast, America, the bass music scene is growing a lot. And there's a subtle difference, and you have to be a, real connoisseur to really put the emphasis on each one. I consider the main difference to be, how frequently the drum beat repeats.
Yeah, the BPM is a big part of genre, I feel. But at the same time, the genre is oriented around the technicalities of it, like how technical it is, how basic it is, what melodies are presented in there, what time signature is used. For example, house music can always be told. You can always tell if house music is house music if it's just a standard 4x4. But the thing is that many electronic genres are 4x4 without people realizing it.
Yeah, it's tyrannical, really.
House music is just the simplest version of 4x4 that exists, but it carries along with it a very it's minimal, but at the same time, it is not any less pleasurable or enjoyable than something that's 4x4 and with layers.
I love good house music.
Yeah.
Do you know Luzine?
No, I don't.
I'll turn you on to Luzine, dude. He's got this one mix that he made for Tipper and Friends' first year at Suwannee, Florida. That was like, I consider it to be like perfect. It's so clean. I can't hardly explain it outside of like really good, like appropriate, proper house music.
Right.
That it lines up with your heartbeat.
Yeah, right. And I have an irregular heartbeat.
Really?
So yeah, I do, and so that's why I love breakcore, and that's why I like IDM and really fast Aphex Twin kind of sound.
You got to listen to my new Project View. You're gonna love it.
All right, I will.
Like I showed some of my new stuff to Zenturian, and the first thing he told me was like, "Yeah, man, this is busy."
This is busy.
I was like, "Word," but that was back before I compressed things properly. So. Will Zenturian is honestly, I really look up to that guy because he is another organizer who's just grinding away at creating events every week, dude. I don't know how many people do that.
He has a gigantic level of knowledge. It's pretty phenomenal to think about.
Yeah, I really want him on the podcast, and I think we've talked about it in the past, but honestly, after co-creation, we kind of just took a month.
Right.
But it's okay. I've heard, artists I really look up to. This painter named Mark Henson.
I know Mark Henson, right?
Oh,
yeah.
Fascinating man. Wonderful art. Very inspiring. He works 3 months on, 3 months off.
The other thing about being an artist is it's hard to support yourself, like in terms of financial gain, because you have to really work hard at advertising your work.
Mm-hmm.
You may work on a painting for a month, and then you may sell that painting for $1,000, but even that's only $1,000 that month. And so you have to come up with ways to bring in income from selling apparel or something that's a bit more consistent, like coffee mugs and posters, things like that, shirts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the reason why the life of an artist is so struggling is because it's hard to find consistent job security and consistent income.
Tell me about it, dude. Well, that's the thing is, like, when you make your life based around festivals, I mean, and today it's a really good way to get into the communities. So, okay, let me give a little history about my festival culture history. So, like, I came out of rehab, or I emerged from rehab, a self-realized creative. I said, I can sing, I can play this guitar,
right.
I can make art. Everybody in my rehab encouraged me to do that. And so I did. And honestly, what I did was I reached out to create culture. Literally, someone came to my house before I had a car and knocked on my door asking for a donation for a clean water resource initiative in Austin. And I said, I'm a painter, I don't have any money. And the person said, what, you're a painter? You should come to Create Culture. And so I hit up somebody to come live paint at Create Culture, which I totally overthought and like put so much pressure on, but it was like the best idea I've ever done, and that got me involved in Head for the Hills.
Oh, I loved Head for the Hills.
I mean, I've talked to the people. They want to rejuvenate it. I think Create Culture, I don't know whatever. Anyway, that's not my decision at this point, but I mean, there's always possibilities, which is a great part of joining any sort of festival community. Is like you really get to know people in a way to where people will hit you up when they have opportunities, because we're trying. I mean, my life it seems like a frantic production, one after another, and like even to the highest levels of production that I hear of, like the F1 race that is going on as we speak, is like my girlfriend Kara Bishop's brother is playing an hour DJ show each day at the F1 track, and not necessarily. I mean, that's another level of entertainment that is older than you and I together. And that's like, I can't imagine feeling like I need to be that professional when like and it's a struggle there. Like you had to get that show, he had to freaking show up at like 8 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And he can't leave all day. So like the
struggle is real.
Yeah, dude. And I think that one of the reasons I bring up the struggle is to put it into perspective for anybody who's listening, I just hope that people can hear this and appreciate what everybody has done for one another. And I mean, at this point, the people that listen to this podcast are creative types that are fairly involved in the festival culture, just because I can't imagine any other people in my life, like, besides my family members and all the gallery owners and stuff like that. But it all comes back around to this idea that no matter what you're doing in your life, it's always going to be a struggle. And like all these things that you and I talked about, it's not because we're at the festival that it's happening. These struggles manifest themselves in our jobs, no matter what they are. and anybody can relate to this, whether you're a bus driver or you work at Kirby Lane, or you're LeBron James, if you're the fucking president.
Yeah, right. I mean, he's... We're not going to get too political with that, but...
No, dude, I always try to shy away from it, clearly, but like, to be honest, he's the elephant in the room. And when we throw these festivals, people are trying to come into... They're trying to come into a place to where they can accept and deal with the reality.
Well...
Accept and deal with the parts of our lives that aren't the festival.
Right. And I think that, in general, humans are coming together because humans suffer, but humans also love. And the reason why people have come together since the dawn of time is because everyone's been having the human experience since the dawn of time. Everyone's been having that suffering, that struggle, but at the same time, everyone's having that love and that connection. And they're two sides of the same coin, because you have to struggle and you have to suffer in order to enjoy the moments in the now. And I think that people are extremely distracted by the suffering, the elephant in the room, so to speak, that it's hard for them to focus on living in the now, because they may regret something they did in the past, or they may set expectations for the future.
Mm-hmm.
But when you stop defining the past as regrets and start defining the past as experiences and lessons, and then you stop defining the future as expectations and you start defining the future as possibility, opportunity, then it becomes a lot easier to live in the eternal moments of the now, because the now is the only thing that exists.
And you don't do any psychedelics.
Not all. Life is naturally very extraordinarily, infinitely psychedelic. Let me tell you something. If you want to experience one of the most psychedelic things that you ever have, wait until it's night and it's raining. And go out and find some woods to walk into, to where there's no one there. It may seem kind of frightening at first, and you're definitely going to have a lot of hesitation towards it, because going by yourself anywhere is kind of scary, but at night especially, in the woods, and you may start seeing things in the woods, but close your eyes, take a deep breath, deep breath, and just tell yourself it's okay, there's nothing to be afraid about, this is just nature.
You know what, Nick? What you just explained is what the psychedelic experience is for so many people. Like,
right.
Literally, you induce this sort of magnified sensation reaction towards this environment that we live in, and it's what's it called when your eyes open?
Dilation. Yeah.
It dilates so much that it can be scary at times, and then through that experience of telling yourself it's okay, this is nature, you're just like completely surrounded by like fear if you don't understand or don't accept, and then as soon as you accept the falling away and aren't attached to like so many things that might be holding you back in life, that's when it's like taking a deep breath, like when you're standing in the woods. That's why I started this podcast, man, because I feel like the English language, as it's formatted right now, is not...
It's limited.
It's limited, and it's not compatible totally for the depth and layers of what we call...
Experience, the life.
Compassion.
Compassion, yeah.
I really want to make new words, like, through the podcast, is like create some cool new language that people can use to like really specifically explain stuff, and people don't do it too much anymore.
Yeah, like tiddly donkabon.
Oh, dude, I feel so tiddly donkabongy when you don't get enough porta potties at Solar Flux.
Yeah, and then you open it up, and there's
Shit Mountain.
Shit Mountain. There it is. Tiddly donkabong. Right
That's
there.
what a tiddly donkabong is.
There it is.
Mount Tiddly Bonkadong.
It's a specific philosophical conundrum when you're basically met face to face with a mountain of shit at a porta potty, but only by surprise.
Oh my god.
Because you thought that the porta potties were cleaned,
Dude.
because you thought that you paid for cleaning, but it turns out that the company didn't come to clean them. And then suddenly you're faced with regret for hiring that irresponsible company that has now ruined your porta potties at your festival.
Oh my gosh. And you know what, dude? I guess that's a good way to wrap it up, is to let people know that there's other ways to get your ego death, guys. You don't have to squat on top of a mountain of shit. You can avoid the mountains of shit in your life. In fact, if you see a mountain of shit, just walk around it. Just go around it and find another way. Find a way to express yourself by walking around that shit. Do it.
Here's the other thing. My dad always once told me, don't be a merry-go-round and just loop through the same mistakes that you've made throughout your life. Be merry and go around those mistakes. And I was like, that's really lame, Dad. That's really stupid.
Perfect dad joke.
Stupid, really symbolic, but I like it. It's okay, I guess. But I mean, the main thing that I was talking about, when you're standing in the middle of the woods and it's night, and you're scared because you're alone and you don't really know necessarily where you are because you may be a little bit lost. It's pretty amazing because you have no choice but to embrace the chaos, and you just like take a deep breath and you try to get rid of that fear and tell yourself that it's okay. You know, you're saying things because it's night. There's all these shadowy figures in the darkness and you're not sure what they are, but it's pretty amazing because a lot of life is like that, and it's good to just be okay with the uncertainties and the unknowns because life is full of that. And the moment we start overthinking what those things are and trying to depict them is the moment we're going to be distracting ourselves from the moments of the now, from just living and just being ourselves. And if you're so distracted by the fears of everyday life, or you try to overanalyze things and come up with infinitely complex philosophical ideologies and analogies, and you try to seek answers and books of religion or you know, through teachers in society, then really it's all pointless, and you waste your time with a lot of that. It's good to just be okay with the flow of everything, of the complexity, and be okay with not knowing.
You know what? I would accept that from someone who had 38 festivals under their belt, but sadly you've only got 36. So
yeah, I know. Well, here let me give you. Let's do the podcast again when I throw 2 more festivals, and I'm sure I'm going to have a completely different perspective on life. You know, yeah, for sure. Let's see. We've been talking for 7 hours and 24 minutes. So.
Oh my God, dude!
Wow.
It was a good one. I mean, I'll certainly edit some of this out, but you know what, Nick? Thank you so much for being on this podcast. You were one of the original people I wanted to be on here as soon as I ever had the idea. I mean, I was like, I can have a podcast. I know Nick Sumbles.
That's why. You're right. I'm not all that great.
I'm kidding, bro.
Just because I wear button-down shirts doesn't mean that I know what I'm doing.
Just because I wear pajamas means I know exactly what I'm doing.
That's very true.
Well, Nick, so give us the deets on Phantom Flux coming up here in a couple weeks.
So Phantom Flux is on October the 26th to the 28th.
Yeah.
We've got a whole weekend of music and art out there, just like most festivals, but I think that you'll like Flux. It's in Greenbrier, Arkansas, and the address is 54 Cargyle Lane. You can go to fluxfamily.com and kind of read more about what we are. But we've got a VR dome. We have fire dancers. We got 2 stages, a lot of electronic music, a lot of bands. And it's going to be kind of cold, but not too cold, because we've got lots of bonfires. And I'm sure that you'll want to dance while you're there to keep yourself warm. But it's a very exciting festival. It's going to be the last one of the year. And we're really trying to make it bigger than other festivals we've thrown. So we're expecting about 800 to 1,000 people.
And you know what, Nick? I love Flux festivals, and I only hear amazing things about them, you know, cold or not. And I just want to thank you one more time for, you know, collaborating with you and your team. Thank you, man, so much.
Thank you, William. I appreciate all the hard work you put into coordinating workshops at Co-Creation and for putting on this podcast.
It was worth it to see all the happy faces at the end of the day, man.
See you next Tuesday.
Yeah, dude. Bye.